Welcome to Pathways of Faith. My name is Pastor Ernest Walker, and today I'm with Reverend Ron King, which is my guest. Ron, God bless you, man.
Bless you.
A lot of people don't know that we go back years and years ago from a band and playing together.
Too many years.
You're a tremendous singer, and I'm excited about what God is doing in your life now. When you came home this time, you had brought a video, and we talked about a video, and then you had a song that you had written for Obama. And so that's what I want to talk about, the song today, and some other things that you're doing with the single moms, and then you are for the ground, which is another one of your projects that you have in the works right now. But let's talk about the Obama video and CD. How did that come to pass?
Okay. First of all, let me just say it's just a pleasure to be home. You know, you don't get a chance to really come home. Everybody talks about, you know, going home, and it's just such a wonderful thing to be home and be able to see people that you haven't seen for years, and people who have basically put some real stock into your life and into the memories that you have of your beginnings. But this song, the Lord blessed me with this song to write it about 12 years ago. He gave me the words of the song. And,
this project is 12 years ago?
Yeah, 12 years ago I wrote the song, and the lyrics, and he gave me the music as well. And
but the sound is so fresh and so current, man. I mean, even the orchestration and everything.
He gave me the song, and I was ready to try to get in touch with Paul Simon, because at that time, you know, Paul Simon had done some projects with an African group of men, I think, Black Mambazo.
Right.
And I thought it was a great song that he might want to do, and along with them, you know, doing their African tribal stepping to it. And the Lord said to me, put it away. You know, and I wasn't really happy with him on that, but I was obedient and I put it away.
So you obeyed?
Oh yes, I put it away.
Okay.
You know, and I put it in a file and totally forgot about it. You know, for 12 years.
Timing is everything in life, right?
And then when Senator Obama made his statement that he was going to run for the presidency, and as that thing began to materialize, the summer before the actual inauguration, the Lord spoke to me and said, you know, that song I told you called Change, go get it. And I went in a file and I pulled that song out of my file of songs that I had written. And
did you have a rough copy of it, or did you have had you done the complete orchestration like other things that I've saw and I've heard that you've done?
Let me just tell you, that song, when I pulled it out, I pulled out the lyrics to the song.
Okay.
The music to the song, the Lord had archived it in the back of my mind.
Okay.
I didn't have the music anywhere. It was just still in my head. And I went to a gentleman that I knew at Radio 1. And I contacted him and told him I wanted him to hear this song. And he met me at a church. And I sung the song for him a cappella. And after I was done singing the song, he pulled out his cell phone and he made a call to a production guy that he knew in Washington. And he said, Robert, I got a guy here with a song that you need to hear. He said, you need to make an appointment, get up here and see him. So he called me on the phone, Robert Sales. And he happens to be the drummer for Life Jennings. And he called me and said, I'm coming up and I want to hear this song, because if he says I need to hear it, it must be worth it. So he comes all the way up from Washington, and he sets up all of his equipment for recording in my living room. At my house with the headphones and everything, and then he said, go right ahead, I'm ready. And with no music, I sung that song for him, and he recorded it, and all he could say was, man, what a message. He said, let me just go back, make some phone calls. He called different artists and said, I got a project that you might want to be on. So to fast forward, we actually got the artists together. And
now this took place how long ago?
That took place that would be 2 summers ago. And from the summer that he left my house until the finished pressed CD was January of the following year. So probably about 6 months it took. And we had a young lady named Nettie, who's a background singer for Life Jennings.
Okay.
Natalie is a young lady who's a new artist out of Washington, D.C.
Also, when I listened to the song and we were watching the video last night, you said, do you know who that is? I said, not really, but the timbre of her voice sounded real familiar. And then you said it's April Neville's.
That's right.
The
soul stirring voice of April Neville is the last vocalist who wanted to be on the project and agreed to be on the project. And so we actually put it together, and we were blessed with having the final mix of the song was done at Bennett Studios, which is Tony Bennett Studio in Englewood, New Jersey.
Okay.
And we had a gentleman who does all of the mixing and mastering for Tony Bennett.
Okay.
And he listened to it, and he said, "I want to be on the project."
Man, I mean, this project
so he
is
mastered
tremendous.
it, you know. And then I sat down, and the Lord had told me, you know, you need to have a video to go with it. So I ended up sitting down with Jared Bennett, who was Tony Bennett's grandson, and he's a videographer for Bennett Studios. And he wanted to do the video. So he and I sat down, and for 2 days, you know, we searched to put this video together.
I mean, the video is so compelling. It has a real life-changing message. Even when you hear the song and when you see the video, you have different personalities that have really touched lives throughout history, like Mother Teresa in there, I believe, and
Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela.
Martin Luther King.
Right.
The scene that most people are familiar with, it probably will be indelible in most people's minds, is the scene that we saw on the national news at Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
You know.
And then you had one scene that was really kind of heart-wrenching when I saw a bag lady walking across the street carrying garbage and plastic bottles and
over to a shopping cart.
Man, it was good.
You know, and the whole idea, Pastor Walker, of the song "Change" is, you know, the opening line of the lyrics of the song says that change is the mother's milk for the growth of all mankind. You know, and I think the Lord gave me those lyrics because, you know, that is the great, you know, leveler. That is the place where all of us, that no matter what your nationality is, no matter what your religious persuasion is, you know, no matter what your color, origin, everyone, all of us start out at the same place. We start out the same way, you know, and that's why, you know, that change is the same way. That same way that mother's milk nourishes all of us in our beginning. Change also has nourished this world and this country and moved us through all of the issues and nourished us into the growth that we are today. And we have to make sure that we continue to nourish the world and our surrounding environment with change, starting with us individually, because most people can see and recognize the change that other people need to make.
Right.
But we kind of lose sight, or we don't even look in the mirror and realize, wait a second, I could probably do a more viable job in making an impression on the world in the future going forward if I just simply work on the changes I need to make.
And you know, that the word change, that was really the rallying cry that President Obama used when he really initiated his campaign for the presidency. And in fact, that was a real stroke of genius, and it was really compelling to see the last verse, how it was intermingled and hooked into the whole panoramic view of this video when President Obama came on the screen, the shot of him on the screen, and he talked about change and how it faded out. That was sweet, man.
Well, you know,
that was good.
I was so glad that worked out.
That was good. That was nice.
I was so glad that worked out so well.
That was such a genius right there, man.
Yeah, Jared Bennett, he took the vision that God gave me and he made it a reality. He is so good at meshing the words and the music and the videos together. But the interesting thing is that a lot of people, they look at the video and the song and they feel like the song is about Obama, but the song is about change, because the song was written and came into being before anyone ever knew who Obama was. You got to realize this song was 12 years in the making. But what happened was, as the Lord does His work, He basically put this song together in my head and used me as an instrument. And then that song was prepared, and Obama came along and became the actual embodiment of that song,
right,
in every way, even to the point that 12 years earlier, the hook in this song, the chorus of the song, says, "Long time coming, but it's here."
Right, right.
We got a long ways going, but it's near. And Obama comes up, and in his campaign, and in his inauguration speech, he says, "It's been a long time coming, but change has come to America."
Right. And you know, I see your picture here with him. Where was this taken at?
That was taken at the Congressional Black Caucus in Washington, D.C., where I was invited to go down there by some dignitaries in New Jersey. And when we were at the banquet, Obama came into the banquet hall, and the Lord spoke to me, and I've learned that to move when He says move.
Right, I hear that.
To do what He asks you to do, whether you feel like it or not. And the Lord spoke to me and said, "Move." And I got up from my table, and I walked all the way across the hall to the front to the stage where He was standing. And most of the people were afraid to walk up, and I just simply walked up to Him, and I stuck my hand out, and I said, "Senator Obama, my name is Ron King. I'm from New Jersey. It's a pleasure meeting you." He stuck his hand out, and I said, shook my hand, and I said, "There's some things I just wanted to shoot out at you that are important to me regarding the condition of our educational system, you know, in this country, and particularly in New Jersey, the state where I'm from." And he did that, you know, signature pose with his hands. He folded his arms, and he stood there listening to me. And I talked to him one-on-one for 10 minutes and shared with him what my feelings were. And he said, "You know what? I'm going to need you to get in touch with Michael Strautmanis, who is my chief aide, and I'm probably going to have you come out to Chicago, meet with some pastors in Chicago, because we've been trying to work on grassroots, working the clergy together with government to be able to bring the two together and be able to empower the people more effectively." He said, "So I'm going to need you to get in touch with him." I said, "How do I reach him?" And a hand landed on my shoulder. I turned around, and he was standing right behind me. He gave me all the information, and he said, "Would you like me to take a picture of you and Senator Obama, president, our new president?"
That's what he said.
Yeah, and I said yes, and I stood next to him, and I took that picture, and that picture ended up being the centerfold of the scene.
Man, it's an awesome picture, brother. I mean, and you know, talking about pictures, I'm looking back here, a very good friend of ours that we were raised up with, Bill Dodson. This is a portrait that he did. Bill is probably one of the foremost inkists. Well, he has a term which he's kind of designated himself an inkist, that he does his work in black and white in ink, and he's done some tremendous portraits of Senator Obama, now President Obama, and this is one of them right here. And then he has a couple more that I've had the pleasure of seeing him literally being there when he's drew them, and tremendous talent. So all types of great people are coming from Youngstown, Ohio, and I believe that Youngstown is going to impact not just our surrounding area of Ohio, but the world one day, because so much is happening in Youngstown, Ohio. It's been so much negative press about Youngstown, but Youngstown has some real nuggets and gems in this city, and you are one, my brother.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And just as a note, as you were speaking about Bill Dodson, you know, we go back, you know, we played in the band together, you know.
Just a trio.
Just trio, and that was, you know, Ollie Hightower.
Played the drums.
Hubble,
you
know, organist, and Bill Dodson.
And you've been doing music for a long time.
Yeah, you know, but that was when Bill was, I guess music was at that time more predominant in his life than the art. Played the bass, but he is such a tremendous artist. I mean, you call this an art piece in ink, but that's probably about as close to a photograph
as you can get.
I mean, you can't get a better picture of Obama Obama or when Dodson does a picture of you,
right.
it literally looks like a photograph.
The thing that I like that he does, and he does it so graphically and so good, that he really, when he does the eyes of an individual, it just makes the whole picture come alive, because the eyes just seem to follow you wherever you go in the room, and you can see the soul of that individual through their eyes, and that's what he tries to do, grasp the person's eyes and really look into their soul and get a real image of what that person is all about.
Right.
Well, I just want to ask you, I see that you have something on your shirt here, just an insignia called "You Are Fertile Ground." Is that it? You are fertile ground with a tree, and you know, sure. When you come on my show, man, you got to bring the host. You know, you got to bring this stuff, man.
Yeah, okay,
so,
I'll make sure.
So and you know, that's a good shirt too. I mean,
oh yeah. Yeah, this is my company is the LLC. Right. You are fertile ground.
All right.
It's not you are, but the letter U and the letter R, fertile ground. And I actually decided to do my own company because I started doing writing seminars, and I started out with a youth behavior modification program, which is I entitled the Me First Youth Initiative. And it's a behavior modification program that deals with behavior modification, interpersonal social skills, people skills, understanding differences, developing tolerance, goal orientation, and most importantly, image reconstruction. Because our young people today have such a distorted image of themselves that a lot of their behavior is based in how they see themselves, and so much of how they see themselves has been dictated to them by the media, by the music, and by the television, and all of the different stimulus that we have allowed to come into their lives that our parents and grandparents, you know, prevented us from having.
Right.
But we have allowed them under the guise of advancement and technology, allowed them to have all these things, you know, without policing, without restriction, without supervision, and that has caused them to become the people that we deal with today that, for the most part, we fear. Yeah.
You know, you made a statement to me the other day, and you said about Madeleine O'Hare. If one woman can keep check me or correct me if I'm saying this wrong. You said if one woman can keep prayer out of the schools and out of, you know, our educational and academic organizations, you know, schools and so forth, that why couldn't the church do something to turn around the music industry?
Yeah. The history of that woman, you know, and her life, I mean, you know, most people haven't, you know, I would challenge everybody to do, you know, some research on Madeleine O'Hare, because she had a very disturbing life.
Okay.
You know, very disturbing life, and just some of the things that she did, she was just not a good person.
Okay.
But to have a woman who basically took on the idea of wanting, out of her own anger, with God, and decided that she was going to not have her son have to say the prayer in church. The Bible being read in church, and she launched
in schools,
excuse me, to launch a one-woman campaign to have it removed, and successful at it. You know, my feeling is as the church, across the board, I'm talking interdenominational, could not come together across this nation and stop the music industry from putting out music that has literally had a tremendously destructive effect on our children.
Violence.
Okay, and the violence, there's violence against women, you know, violence, drugs. Our kids today, all they want money. They don't seem to want to work, but they just want money. It's all about the money has become the symbol. It's not a work ethic. It's just wanting the money, and however I can get it. And we have now allowed the music industry to put music out and cover themselves by just putting a explicit language label on the CD, and we've allowed them to cover themselves that way. We could have done a whole lot more in making sure. I can remember some of your viewers might be able to remember that, you know, we all grew up, we were Funkadelic, we were Funketeers.
Yeah.
You know, in the Parliament Funkadelic and Bootsy
Slide
Rubber
Family
Band,
Stone.
you know, but there was a time period when George Clinton and the Funkadelic could not perform in certain cities.
Right.
Because of the nature of their music,
Right.
because of the nature of their dress, and it was just because society and the powers that be in those cities did not understand what they meant when they said funk.
Right.
And because they didn't understand what that meant, they conjured up in their mind what they thought it meant, and they said, you can't come here and play. You will not play in this city. You will not play on this stage. And now we've gone from that funk word that people have, at that time, forbid them from playing in the entire state,
Right.
to today, we now know exactly what the kids are saying and using the F word or whatever in their music, and they say that word right out on the music. The music companies stamp it and put it in the stores, and they play it over the radios. And
well, you know, that has to do also with tolerance. And we talked beforehand, and you said that how can we tell a child when they use language like that it's wrong, and you know, it's not to be used in an open setting, and it's just not good ethical language, and yet we'll allow that to be seen on TV, it will be seen and shown in movies, and yet the adults, we tolerate it, but when we turn around and we see our children do this, tolerate it or say it, we chasten them, we chastise them, because we see it coming out of their mouth. But where did they get it from?
Right. And we are our own worst enemy in what we allow to be tolerated. You know, exactly right. We were talking the other day that, you know, you can't expect the kid. I tell teachers that you've got to desensitize yourself, and you know, because problems are an opportunity to teach.
Okay.
So it's not just a problem; it's an opportunity for you to share and bring somebody along a little bit further down the road. And if a kid watches television and you sit in a room and a television show is on, and it's you know, Denzel Washington, it's, you know, it's Dennis Hopper, it's Halle Berry, it's, you know, whoever it may be, and they're using that explicit language in the movie, and you're acting like it's no big deal because it's on television. How can you get upset when your child or you hear your kid say that word, and you, at that particular point, you want to jump all over them? That's a time for you to teach and help them to understand the difference between how they live their lives and what they see coming across the media or television for the purpose of simply making money. And that's an opportunity for us to teach them that, you know, and we don't do a good job of that. We bash our kids for it, and that's why they rail at us doing that, because they don't understand that seemingly double standard that you have. You know, and you can say all you want, but when they walk out of your presence, they'll continue doing that process because you haven't taught them anything.
Well, let me ask you this. So you are fertile ground. You've had this how long now?
You Are Fertile Ground. I started.
Excuse me. And how far have you taken it?
Okay, You Are Fertile Ground, LLC, started the company to have an umbrella company that I could put the different seminars and workshops that I do. The Me First Youth Initiative was one of them. I also have a Losing is Living youth anti-obesity program, which is a eating regimen, exercise program that works to get young people to understand the importance of changing their lifestyle. You know, no more diets. Forget about the diet. Let's just change your way of living and how you eat, you know, on a daily basis. And I put that under there. And then I have the Single Moms Open Forum, which is entitled The Language of Parenting, helping young single moms understand how to better to parent their children in these times that we're living in. So You Are Fertile Ground is a company, and You Are Fertile Ground stands for, the U stands for understanding where you are. The R stands for taking responsibility for getting there. So the idea is, if you know where you want to go in life, then you take the responsibility for getting there, and don't blame anyone for anything. This is your life. God gave it to you. And it's your responsibility to get to wherever you feel like your station in life is. And if someone seems to be hindering you from doing that, then you need to step away from that person. It doesn't matter how close a friend they are, doesn't matter how close a family member they are. If you feel like God is leading you in a certain direction in your life, then you've got to be willing to go even without that person.
You know, the scripture says evil communications corrupt good manners. Literally it means that if there's some type of negative influence in your life, and it's affecting you to change and into that negative, to agree with that negative influence, you need to get away from that person or that thing. I like to say when I saw you Sunday and you walked into my office, I looked at you and I said, "Man, you've lost weight." You were big. You weren't that big in the beginning. Probably about what 200 pounds, 190.
190, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm like, "Whoa, what's happening?"
Yeah.
And you told me about the program, the obesity program, because that's one of the hallmark programs that First Lady Obama really has taken heart to make sure our children, get fit, and they're fighting against obesity, because childhood obesity and teen obesity is on the rise in our country as never before. And when I saw you and you told me about your program, and you said that I want to be an example to the young children, and I'm like, if you be any more of an example, there'll be no more Ron King. You'll melt away. So, and then we talked about the email that the young girl, I think she was 15, she wrote you, and she applauded you for helping her to lose weight. Tell me about that, man.
Well, she sent me an email at the end of
Now tell me why you lost weight, first of all.
Well, I actually lost.
Because I'm asking you to help me now.
Yeah, well, I actually lost. I didn't really have a whole lot.
Okay.
But I had put on some size when I moved to New Jersey, because I was into the bodybuilding thing.
Right,
so I was doing that big time in New Jersey, and so some years after I was a second place Mr. Garden State and all that, third place Muscle Beach, New Jersey, and then I stepped away from that and put on a little bit of weight as I got older. So I maybe put on about 10, 12 pounds in some places I didn't want to have it. And so once I decided that I wanted to get rid of it, I wanted to do this youth program, I decided I wanted to actually teach the class, because I had been a corporate health instructor and all that. So I started teaching the class. So I took them out and we did some power walking and mountain climbing and